Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to go over and discuss this paper on automatically neutralizing subjective bias in text. The paper is by Reed Prizer, Richard D.L. Martinez, Nathan Das, Sadao Kurohashi, Dan Jafraski, and D.E. Yang. I'm really sorry if I mispronounced those names. And you can see all of them are from top-notch universities: Stanford University, Kyoto University, and Georgia Tech. Georgia Institute of Technology. Right. So let's just also the paper is from 2019, so it's 1.5 year old, I believe. Right. So let's begin with the abstract. So texts like news, encyclopedias, and some social media strive for objectivity, yet bias is always present because, of course, bias will be there when people write. They all have some inherent bias, be it some political bias or be it some bias in the way they write, which may be caused due to the way they learned to write. Okay, so to address this issue, we introduce a novel testbed for natural language generation, automatically bringing inappropriately subjective text into a neutral point of view. So they're trying to remove the bias, and they offer the first parallel corpus of biased language. The corpus contains 180,000 sentence pairs and originates from Wikipedia edits that removed various framing, presuppositions, and attitudes from biased sentences. So why did they pick this dataset? Well, for one reason, Wikipedia is one of the largest community sourced efforts. So you have a lot of people making changes in the text to remove things such as bias. So if they can track down those edits, then they can have a pretty large dataset, like they got 180,000 sentence pairs in this case. And secondly, they propose a two strong encoder decoder baselines for a task. So a straightforward yet opaque concurrent system using a BERT encoder to identify subjective words as part of the generation process. So first of all, you need to know which words are they bringing in the bias. So they're using a concurrent system using a BERT encoder. If you're not familiar with BERT, I'll highly recommend going through some video. BERT is basically a deep learning framework using transformer architecture. So it's a bidirectional encoder representation using transformers, if I'm not wrong. Let me just look it up. BERT. Alright. Not BERT model. Yep. Bidirectional encoder representations from transformers. Right. And secondly, they used an interpretable and controllable modular algorithm which separates these three tasks. So a BERT-based classifier to identify the problematic words, right? A novel join embeddings through which the classifier can edit the hidden states of the encoder. So you need to make some changes to remove the bias. That is the second part. And they then have a large-scale human evaluation across four domains: encyclopedias, news, headlines, books, and political speeches, uh, which suggests that these new algorithms are a first step towards automatic identification. So basically, the entire aim of any of these papers is to automate the process which humans would have done earlier, because social media platforms and texts and other uh, blogs, etc., they are written at such a rampant pace that humans cannot conceivably go and check and look for bias everywhere. All right. So the introduction: writers and editors of texts like encyclopedia, news, and textbooks strive to avoid biased language. Yet it remains 62% of Americans believe that news is biased, and bias is the single largest source of distrust. So we've all seen this around us. Some people say that this news channel supports this political party, or this news channel has some background agenda, and so on and so forth. This work presents data and algorithms for automatically reducing bias in text. We focus on a particular kind of bias, inappropriate subjectivity or subjective bias. So, subjective bias occurs when language that should be neutral and fair is skewed by feeling, opinion, or taste. So, if a person dislikes something or likes something, then when they write about it, they give an inherent bias to it. So in practice, we identify subjective bias via the method of reconnaissance, Danescu, Niculescu, Meisel, and Jofraski. So this was the method proposed by these guys in 2013. So using Wikipedia's neutral point of view policy. So this is a policy which is followed by Wikipedia so that their articles do not have bias. This policy is a set of principles which includes avoiding stating opinions as facts and preferring non-judgmental language. So they've given an example. Suppose someone wrote John McCain exposed as an unprincipled politician. Exposed uh, gives a sense of bias because uh, it's sort of saying that, implying that he is one, while it has not yet been say confirmed. So John McCain described as an unprincipled politician would be maybe a much better or a less biased version of this sentence. So this is an example output from the algorithm which they develop later using the modular algorithm. So exposed is a factative verb that presupposes the truth of its complement that McCain is unprincipled. So replacing exposed with described neutralizes the headline because it conveys a similar idea, clause proposition. Someone is asserting McCain is unprincipled, but it is not presupposing the truth that McCain is unprincipled because exposed uh, I don't know how to describe it, but you can just feel right because that it is a much stronger word to use and presupposes some amount of truth. Okay, so we've discussed this, right? Pilfered in the gameplay, pilfered from DDR subjectively frames the shared gameplay as a kind of theft. His is a lead programmer, usually spends his career, again introduces a bias. Okay, so these are from this table which we'll go through in a bit. So they aim to debias the text by suggesting edits that could make it more neutral. And how is this different from earlier works? So earlier works have debiased representations of text by removing dimensions of prejudice from word embeddings and the hidden states of predictive models. So to avoid overloading the definition of bias, they we refer to our kind of text debiasing as neutralizing that text. So figure 1 gives an example, right? So figure 1 is one example, but this is the these are some more examples. Okay, so a new downtown is being developed which will bring back. A new downtown is being developed which its promoters hope will bring back, right? So will bring back asserts that it will bring back, but will which its promoters hope will bring back gives some amount of variance or some uncertainty because that some people hope that it will bring back, but it's not guaranteed. So let's have a look at this one. The author's expose on nutritional studies. So expose mean expose is implying that he found the author has found something huge, but it might just be a fallacy or something that the author just cooked up on his own. So the author's statements on nutritional studies makes much more sense, and these are the different subcategories which they sort of uh, divided the different types of biases into. Okay, so we introduce the wiki neutrality corpus. This is a new parallel corpus of 180,000 biased and neutralized sentence pairs along with contextual sentences and metadata. So metadata would be uh, some additional information about the text which is not present in the text, so maybe some context. The corpus was harvested from Wikipedia edits that were designed to ensure texts had a neutral point of view. WNC is the first parallel corpus of biased language. Okay, so they defined their task here. So their task is neutralizing subjectively biased text, which we've discussed multiple times by now. So this task has multiple many properties with tasks like detecting framing or epistemological bias. Detecting framing or epistemological bias or veridicality assessment, factuality prediction, and in between these references I hope I'm not missing something, right? So what they're saying is the task which they're going to do is also somewhat related to these tasks. So our new task extends these tasks into a generation task because they now need the new sentence as well, so generating more neutral text with otherwise similar meaning. So finally, they propose a novel sequence-to-sequence algorithm for this neutralization task. Both methods leverage denoising autoencoders and a token-weighted loss function. So this is pretty common if you've seen other papers as well. Denoising autoencoders were huge, are huge still. An interpretable and controllable modular algorithm breaks the problem into detection and editing using a BERT-based detector to explicitly identify problematic words. So this is the same as the stuff which we discussed in the abstract, right? So what they're essentially describing is what they've done in the paper, and then they've used a novel join embedding through which the detector can modify an editor's hidden state. So if I had to break down the paper in just three phases, the first phase was data collection, the second phase was using the BERT based detector to find the problematic words, and the third phase was using this novel join embeddings through which they can change the sentences and remove the bias. Of course, this is a very gross oversimplification, but at a very high level view, this is what the paper did. So this paradigm advances an important human in the loop approach to bias understanding and generating generative language modeling. So second, an easy to train and use but more opaque concurrent system uses a BERT encoder to identify subjectivity as part of the generation process. So we'll be discussing both of these in detail when we go to their respective sections. So large-scale human evaluation suggests that while not without flaws, our algorithms can identify and reduce bias in encyclopedias and all of these things. They do better than state-of-the-art style transfer and machine translation systems. And this is an important first step into automating this part. They've also shared their data set, which is right here. So you can go ahead and have a look at this data set as well. Right. So where was it? Yep. So the first thing which they describe is their dataset. How did they collect it? So it is a corpus of aligned sentences pre and post utilization by English Wikipedia editors. They use regexes to crawl 423,000 Wikipedia revisions between 2004 and 2019. So if you've ever worked to say make some changes on Wikipedia, you'll get what this is what's happening here. But since Wikipedia is an open for all system, so anyone can edit and make corrections. So they've looked at those correction records to find corrections which were aimed at removing bias, right? So and provide and the so when they were identifying the edits, they looked for edits which provided NPOV related justification. So NPOV is neutral point of view, which we discussed here, Wikipedia's neutral point of view policy. So to maximize the precision of bias related changes, they ignored revisions where a single sentence was changed, more than a single sentence was changed, minimal edits. So there's a metric called character Levenstein distance. If that was less than 4, then they ignored it because that might not be significant. Maximal edits where more than half of the words in the sentence were changed. Edits where more than half of the words were proper nouns. So that was not that makes sense because it might just be a factual correction. Say someone used the names of some people who were not involved and so on. Edits that fix spelling or grammatical errors, of course, there's no need for that in some bias testing, which added references or hyperlinks also. Edits that change non-literary elements like tables or punctuations. So all of these seem to be very something which we can all agree with, I guess. Maybe you're not really comfortable with this part, so I'd suggest just looking up what character Levenstein distance is, and you'll easily now appreciate what they've done. So then they align sentences in pre and post text by computing a sliding window. So a size of K5 of pairwise blue scores between sentences and matching sentences with the biggest score. So last we discard pairs whose length ratios were beyond the 95th percentile. So basically what they've done is they've used a sliding window approach and use the blue metric. So if you're not familiar with blue is a metric which is used to sort of measure, it's a standard metric to measure which is used to measure the efficiency of natural language tasks. So they align the sentences in pre and post text, and they then use a sliding window between sentences and the matching sentences, and then they find those with the biggest scores, and then they discard all of those which were out of the 95th percentile. So they've given the corpus statistics. So how many words were there, how many total words are there, how many sentence pairs, average sequence length, and the revised words per sentence. Okay. So corpus statistics are given in table 2. All of this is pretty self-explanatory. So table 1 also gives a characterization of these samples pairs using a slight extension of the topology of these gentlemen, this paper, they defined framing bias as using subjective words or phrases linked with particular point of view, using words like best or deepest, or using pilfered from instead of based on. And epistemological bias as linguistic features that study often via presupposition modify the believability of a proposition. Okay, so that was a lot to take in, but let's just break it down. So what they've done is they've extended the work of these people. So they've defined something called framing bias, in which they use subjective words or phrases linked with particular point of view. So using words like best or deepest uh, to get some framing bias. Also, there's epistemological bias, where linguistic features are subtly used to add some presupposition which enhances the believability of the proposition. So in that case, this case, say, where will bring back, will is a very subtle word, but it is adding some sort of certainty and a validation to the proposition. So it falls into the following category. All right. We add to there to a third kind of subjectivity bias that also occurs in our data, which we call demographic bias. So text which has presupposition about particular gender, race, or other demographic categories. So maybe some text is assuming that a particular race is more likely to do something, or a particular gender is more likely to earn something or be good at something. So all of that comes in under this. So in their dataset, around 25% was epistemological, 57.7% was framing, 11.7% was demographic, and 5.6 was just noise. The dataset does not include labels for these categories, but we hand labeled a random sample of 500 examples to estimate the distribution of the three types. So this is what table 3 shows. Again, dataset properties, topic. So they used categorization models from Wikipedia Foundation to bucket articles from into 44 category ontology, then compare the proportions of the driven edits across categories. So essentially what they're looking for is which topic has more edits driven by a neutral point of view. So that would give them the insight about which topic has more likely is more likely to have some bias in it. So, as expected, history, politics, philosophy, sports, and language categories had most number of edits in this category, while meteorology, what's happening to science, landforms, broadcasting, and art categories. Because, like for instance, if you have a mathematical equation, then you're not going. There's nothing which changes it, right? But in politics, as we all know, there's a lot of subjectivity. Maybe supporters of one political party or people having affiliation to one political party would like to see something else instead of the truth in maybe some case. Also, they use tenure. So they group editors into newcomers, which have less than a month of experience, experienced, which have more than a month. So they've found that newcomers are less likely to perform these neutralizing edits, while experienced ones are. So this shows that this task is indeed complex, because beginners tend to not indulge in this. So methods for neutralizing text. So we propose a task of neutralizing text in which the algorithm is given an input sentence and produces an output sentence whose meaning is as similar to the original text as possible, but the subjective bias is removed. So they use a modular algorithm which enables human control and interpretability, and a concurrent algorithm is used to train and operate. So each of these has their own benefit and pros and cons. So they've just described a notation. So a sentence is represented as W1S all the way to WNS, where W all these W's are words. So this is a source sequence of subjectively biased text, and this is the target sequence. So the target which they want. We'll discuss this figure as well once we encounter it in our text. So let's have a look at the modular algorithm first. So the first algorithm is called modular. It has two stages: BERT-based detection and LSTM-based editing. So if you're not familiar with BERT, I'll give you a high-level overview of BERT. BERT is a state of the art not exactly state of the art because there are more models such as XLNet which have outperformed it in some cases, but it was state of the art at some point, and it still performs incredibly well, and it essentially generates embeddings which have more context. So suppose you have the sentence "I am a boy." In earlier models, when you were looking for context for the word "am," you were not looking for words which were ahead of "am," say "boy." But with BERT this changed. BERT used some other methods, so it is bidirectional in that sense. And when it's looking for context for the word "am," it might include some weight. It might give some weight to the word "boy" as well. So they, and then they use LSTMs. If you're not familiar with LSTMs, then I'll highly recommend first going through the basics, because this paper ahead would be really difficult. So LSTMs are long short-term memory based networks. So LSTMs are classic RNNs. They're very famous RNN based architectures. So they pre-train a model for each stage and then combine them into a joint system for end-to-end fine-tuning on the overall neutralizing task. And then they are describing each module. So for each of these modules, they have trained a model. Okay, so the detection module is a neural sequence tagger that estimates the probability that the input word is subjectively biased. So these are the input words which we have here. So we need to know which word is causing the bias to be able to fix it. So each the probability pi is calculated according to this relation. So let's just break this down. This might seem a lot to take in. So first of all, this sigma is just your activation function. So let's not care about it that much. It's just bring scaling down, say, the input to the function, so that some it it might, so that it's not the case that some words give, say, an output of 1,000 while some give an output of 100. So it might be difficult for the model to appropriately give them weights. So say activation functions are used for that. So uh, okay, so first of all, we have this weight bi associated to wb. So bi belonging to rb is basically a vector. So essentially it's the vector space where the vectors have length b. Represents wi semantic meaning. It is a contextualized word vector produced by BERT, a transformer encoder that has been pre-trained on mass language model. So this is the vector which I was talking about, which BERT will produce for that word, and WB is just the weights which are used for that. So WB belongs to RB, are learnable parameters. These are the weights which we give to that vector. Similarly, we have EI. So EI represents expert features of bias proposed by uh, these guys in their paper. So that is essentially using the ReLU activation on fi into the input vector, and fi is a vector of discrete features, while wn is a matrix of learnable parameters. So fi is also extracted, and to leverage the for this first part, to leverage the bias topic relationship, they also append a token denoting the article's topic. So in the end of the vector, they also have a token which say indicates art, sports, and so on. And these word tokens are also learned from scratch. So I guess this part is now quite clear. So this part is for the word vectors. This part is for given from this earlier work, and B is just a bias to the entire thing. So I'll just be back in a sec. There's someone at the door. Sorry for the disturbance. Yep. So I'm back, and let's just continue. Now let's discuss this this thing as well. So this is based on this expression, and let's just look at the different constituents. So bi is the features which BERT gives. You also have fi, which is just a set of discrete features, and you have win, which is the which are the weights. So you have the features multiplied by the weights, and then the ReLU activation is applied to them. So anything which is less than 1 goes to 0 in value. The other things retain their value, and that is what comes from here. So you have EI here, and you have the different weights here. You have the different BERT features here, and then you uh, have a linear combination of the two. So you multiply WE, the weights for these EIs, to uh, the output generated by this entire upper pipeline, and then you have BERT features which are multiplied by the weights, and all of them together constitute the final output. All right. So, and just to reiterate, this is the probability that a particular word has subjective bias. So this would be so they look at, say, the top words which have a subjective bias, or maybe define a probability threshold beyond which the bias is actually there. So the next step is module pre-training. So we train this module, this upper part, using differences between using diffs between the source and target text. So a label pi star is 1 if wis was deleted or modified as a part of neutralizing process. So essentially, if a word was removed or deleted as a part of neutralizing process, then that means that that word was bringing in subjective bias at some level. So if that is the case, then they'll set the probability for that word to be 1, and a label is 0 if that word was unchanged. The loss is calculated using the average negative log likelihood of the labels. So I'm assuming that you are familiar with this. This is just your standard cross entropy loss. So that is how they did the pre-training of the module, because you need some way to train it, right? So how will you get these measures? So, and if even if you get these measures, what will you compare it against? So to compare it against something, they created this technique to get what the expected value of pi is for that word. Then the model learns these parameters wb, we, and all, to get that as close to that as possible. Okay, next we have the editing module. So the editing module takes a subjective source sentence S and is trained to edit it into a more neutral complement T. Okay, so this is the main part, if I may say so. This taking in the sentence where you have to remove the bias, and it edits it. And so how does this work? This module is based on a sequence to sequence neural machine translation model. So they use a bi-LSTM encoder to convert the sentence into a sequence of hidden states. Then an LSTM decoder generates text one token at a time by repeatedly attending to H and producing probability distribution over the vocabulary. We also add two mechanisms from the summarization literature. The first is a copy mechanism, where the model's final output for time step I becomes a weighted combination of the predicted vocabulary distribution and attention distribution from the time step. If this is sort of overwhelming you, don't worry. I'm just reading through it once, and then I'll explain it step by step. The second is a coverage mechanism, which incorporates the sum of previous attention distributions into the final loss function to discourage the model from re-attending to a word and repeating itself. Okay, so that was a lot to take in. So let's just break it sentence by sentence. So this is based on a sequence to sequence neural machine translation model. I guess that is self-explanatory. So they're using bi-LSTMs. So if you're not familiar with bi-LSTMs, so I'll just recommend going and reading up on that, because all of the paper, this entire paper has a lot of LSTM work. So they use a LSTM based encoder. So that encoder takes the sentence and encodes it into a sequence of hidden states. So you have hidden states. So you might, oh, sorry, you might wonder why are there n hidden states. So if you go back to your sentence, you have n words in the sentence. So each word has a hidden state. Okay. Next, an LSTM decoder generates text one token at a time by repeatedly attending to H and producing probability distributions over the vocabulary. So it is now going over this set of hidden states. That is what they meant by attending. They want to see which word or which hidden state has more influence on the final output, and then they generate probability distributions according to the same. So then they can predict which word to alter. They also add two mechanisms for the summarization literature. The first is a copy mechanism, where the models, okay, so again breaking it down into sentences. This part is self-explanatory English. They're adding two mechanisms. So what is the mechanism? The first is a copy mechanism, where the model's final output for time step I becomes a weighted combination of the predicted vocabulary distribution and the attentional distribution from that timestamp. So essentially what they're trying to say is, for a particular word, the previous words also have an effect. They at the given timestamp, uh, they'll have some weighted some of the previous outputs which they've already given. The second is a coverage mechanism, which incorporates the sum of previous attention distributions into the final loss function to discourage the model from reattending to a word and repeating itself. So essentially, if the model does the same reattending again and again, then the model will not be quite good, right? So they're adding this into the module so that the model, uh, it realizes that it's been attending to the same distribution again and again, or to the same words multiple times, and it tries to learn more new things. Okay, so if I am trying my best to explain it in the most easy way possible, I guess. But if I make some mistake or you feel that you have a better explanation, then please write down in the comment. I'd love to read your explanations. Next, we have the module pre-training. So we pre-train the decoder as a language model of neutral text using a neutral portion of wiki neutral corpus. So this is the decoder part. So doing so expresses a data-driven prior about how target sentences should read. We accomplish this with denoising autoencoder objective and maximizing the conditional log probability of reconstructing a sequence X from corrupted versions of itself using a noise model where this is. So essentially what's happening here is they are pre-training the decoder as a language model. And wait a minute, there's someone at the door again. I'm sorry about that. There's some interruption again and again. So they pre-train the decoder as a language model of neutral text using a neutral portion of using this the neutral portion which we saw of the dataset earlier. So this what they've essentially done is they've trained a decoder to produce natural text. So doing so expresses a data-driven prior about how target sentences should read. So we accomplish this with a denoising autoencoder objective and maximizing the conditional log probability of reconstructing a sentence X from a corrupted version of itself. So basically they add some noise to the sentence, and what they're trying to do is get the sentence back from the noisy sentence. That is a part of the denoising autoencoder objective. So they're trying to maximize this probability, and the noise model which they use is this. So this is similar to some other work. So we slightly shuffle X such that Xi's index is randomly selected from in X. So then in the noisy version of X, a word Xi can be just can go can be sort of transported and replaced with another word in a range k. So if the word is at ith location, then I plus k to I minus k to I plus k, in that range the words are switched. Then they drop the words with probability p for our so and for the experiments which they did, they set k to 3 and probability to 0.25. So they drop the words which have probability 0.25. Okay, and this is the final system of theirs. So this is the final modular system which combines the detection module as well as the editing module. Okay, so once the detection and editing modules have been pre-trained, we join them and fine-tune together as an end-to-end system for translating S into T. So that was our original objective, subjectively biased to non-biased text. This is done using a novel join embedding mechanism that lets the detector control the editor. So the join embedding is a vector that we add to each encoder hidden state in the editing module. So okay, let's just read this and then we'll try to understand this. This operation is gated by the detector's output probabilities. Note that the same V is applied across all type steps. Okay, so they've used this join embedding mechanism which they describe, which lets the detector control the editor. So editing part is being controlled by the detector. The join embedding is a vector V. So this is what they get after using the join embedding mechanism. It belongs to the RH vector space, and they add this to each encoder hidden state in the editing module. So in the editing module, we got these hidden states, using an encoder, and they add this to the hidden state. So you have hi dash as hi plus pi into v, where v is the vector. Now, what are these probabilities? These probabilities are used to these probabilities come from the detector's output probabilities. So these are the probabilities that the detector associates to the different words. So if we go back here, you have n words, so you have n probabilities. Okay, so we proceed to condition the decoder on the new hidden states. So these are the hidden states which you get, which have varying amounts of v in them. So since v is added as a weighted sum, intuitively v is enriching the hidden states of the word that the detector identified as subjective. So the word which the detector found to be subjective will have a higher probability, then that word will have a higher uh, proportion of v added to it. So the value of hi dash would also be higher. This tells the decoder what language should be changed and what is safe to be copied. So the detector can learn that the higher values can be changed. Error signals are allowed to flow backward into both the encoder and detector, creating an end-to-end system from the two modules. And to fine-tune the parameters of the joint system, they use a token-weighted loss function that scales the loss on neutralized words. That is words unique to T. So they use a token-weighted loss function. So the words which are unique to T are the words which come from neutralizing, right? And so they scale those words by a factor of alpha. Okay, so let's just break this down again. Going back, T is the target sequence, the and it has length m, right? So error signals are allowed to go backwards to make changes. To fine tune the parameters of the joint system, they use token weighted loss function that scales the loss on neutralized words, so by a factor of alpha. So this is essentially the loss function which you normally have, the log like the likelihood loss, and then they added this extra weight. This weight is essentially adding some giving some weight to the words which come post neutralizing. So if the word comes only after neutralizing, then it has an extra alpha added to it. And C is the bias. C is a term from the coverage mechanism. Okay, so we'll have a look at that too. And they used alpha is 1.3. Intuitively, a loss function incorporates an inductive bias on of the neutralizing process. The source and target have a high degree of lexical similarity, but the goal is to learn the structure of the differences and not simply copy words from output into the output. So what they're trying to say is they do not want the model to directly copy words, but learn the inherent structure of biased and non-biased text to be able to convert between them freely. This loss function is related to previous work on grammar correction and cost-sensitive learning. Okay. Now we have our concurrent module, right? I was just looking if there's something which I missed here. So this figure. So this is the modular system. So first of all, you have a tagger and you have v. V was the join embedding vector. So you add v to all the probabilities. So sorry, you multiply v with all the probabilities and get the values, and then you add it to the hidden states. So you have h dash which we discussed here, and then that h dash now goes to the decoder which generates the output. So the tagger is used to generate the probabilities which are then used to so the so let me break this down once again. I think I got confused a bit. So the tagger and v together give us this term to modify the hidden states. The encoder part which we discussed here generates the hidden states. So this is the bi-LSTM encoder, and then you have when you add the two, you get h dash, which is the updated hidden state, which then passes through the decoder to give us the new neutralized sentence. All right. So now the concurrent part. A second algorithm takes a problematic source S and directly generates a neutralized T. While this renders the system easier to train or operate, it limits interpretability, and controllability. Okay, so let's just have a look at what this is doing. So the concurrent system is an encoder-decoder neural network. The encoder is BERT, the decoder is the same, an additional LSTM which with copy and coverage mechanisms. The decoder's inputs are set to okay. So first of all, BERT does the encoding into vectors, which we've discussed again earlier, and then that goes into an LSTM with copy and coverage mechanism. So the decoder inputs, the LSTM acts as the decoder, and it gets inputs as H WH into B, where B is the BERT embedded source. So this is the embedding which BERT produce. WH is a matrix which the model will try to learn, and this get the hidden states, and then it uses those hidden states to get the states. So the initial state C naught is the weight with the state associated with the state C naught, and then it is so these weights are then used multiplied with the hidden states which the BERT model produce, and then the mean is taken. And similarly, H naught, the hidden state, is the weight associated with the hidden states which the model will try to learn, and multiplied again by this same term. Alright, so the model training part, the concurrent model is pre-trained with the same auto-encoding procedure which we discussed in section 3.1. So this auto-encoding procedure is the same. It is then fine-tuned as a subjective to neutral translation system with the same loss function. So then the remaining part is the same, so the same loss function is used. Alright. So these are the scores which the model reported. So if you in bias neutralization performance, ST indicates a style transfer system. MT is a machine translation system. For quantitative metrics, rows with asterisks are significantly different than the preceding row. For qualitative metrics, rows with asterisks are significantly different from zero. Higher is preferable for fluency, while lower is preferable for bias and meaning. So you can see that when you train the model, then you have a lower bias when you use the modular detector, and you also have a good blue score, but the blue score is better when you use a concurrent detector. So there are some trade-offs. So they've then discussed the implementation. So this is not so important because implementation can be done in any way, but I'll still go through it. They use PyTorch. They use the learning rate of 5 into 10 to the power minus 10 to the power minus 5. They used a batch size of 16, vector length of 512. They use gradient clipping with maximum gradient of 3, so they clip the gradients beyond this. They use a dropout probability, and then they initialize BERT components using the tagging module with the publicly released BERT based uncased parameters. All of them were randomly initialized, so the matrices and all. Okay, so this is the procedure they used. We train and evaluate a system on a subset where the editor changed or deleted a single word. So they got 53,803 training pairs. So they did not use the entire dataset at once, and they sampled 700 development and 1000 test pairs, and for fair comparison they gave the baseline additional access to the 385,639 neutral examples when possible. So this was to generate a baseline. So then they pre-trained the editing module on a neutral portion for 4 epochs. The joint system was trained on the same data as the tagger for 25,000 steps, and then they perform interference using beam search and beam weight of 4. So this is all the technical stuff. Where I'm not going to go over this part because I'm not so proficient in this. We'll just look at the ideas of the paper. All computations were performed on a single NVIDIA Titan X GPU, and it took around 10 hours. So not so bad, I'll say, because I've seen papers which take much longer and many more GPUs. And using it for evaluation, they use BLEU and accuracy proportion of decoding that exactly match the editor. They report statistical significance with bootstrap resampling and a 95% confidence level. They also hired fluent English speaking crowd workers on Amazon Mechanical Turk for qualitative evaluation, and workers were shown the definition of biased text and 6 example sentences. then subjected to 5 question qualification tests where they had to identify the subjective bias, and approximately half of the 30,000 workers who took the test passed, and then they were asked to compare pairs of original and edited sentences. So fluency and bias were evaluated on semantical differential scale from -2 to 2. So a semantical differential scale can better evaluate attitude oriented questions. So is text A or B more influent? So meaning was evaluated on Likert scale from 0 to 4. So this is the entire. This is how they interacted with the manual annotators and manual checkers. So this is also pretty standard. Like the method which they use might be exclusive or something new, but this process is done a lot in natural language processing tasks to see how the model even performs, right? So now the corpus uh, results are present, right? So a bird based system and a sub system which predicts replacement including deletion for subjective word directly from the bird embedding. So all methods appear to successfully reduce bias. However, many methods appear to lack fluency. So the output sentence has less fluency. However, method adding a token weighted loss function and pre-training the decoder helps the model coherence according to Blue and accuracy. So this token weighted loss which we saw where we were adding this alpha term is actually helping the model. Adding the detector modular bot encoder concurrent provides additional benefits. The proposed model retained the strong effects of system from the literature while also producing target level fluency on average. So our results suggest that there is no clear winner. Modular is better at reducing bias as we discussed and has higher accuracy while concurrent produces more fluent responses and higher blue. So these are the different comparisons which they've done. So the real world media to demonstrate the efficacy of the proposed methods, we prepared datasets on out of domain datasets which the model has not seen before. After inference, we listed 1800 raters to assess the quality of the 200 randomly select sample data points. So they used the IBC corpus, the headlines of new partisan news articles, and sentences from the campaigns of politicians such as Donald Trump. So the result which they found was that modular does a better job at reducing bias, while concurrent does a better job at overall preserving the meaning of the sentence. Now an error analysis. To better understand the limits of a model, we randomly sample 50 errors produced by the model on the Wikipedia testset and bin them into following category, where the model did no change, bad change, or got some disfluency. And for instance, the original sentence was activists have filed a lawsuit. So modular uh, conversion was critics of it have filed a lawsuit, while concurrent one called it as critics have filed a lawsuit. So you can see how the fluency and bias are different. So model has a more negative fluency. It has a more negative bias, and it has a higher meaning. So in different claims, in different contexts, you can have a look at the examples. Also about the noise, the data point is noisy and the target text is not a neutralized version of the source. So this was the fourth error analysis which they this was the fourth category which they classified the random samples into. The distribution of errors shows that most errors are due to subtlety and complexity of language understanding required. So you need to know the model needs to learn the intricacies of the language. These challenges are particularly pronounced for neutralizing edits that involve replacement of factive and assertive verbs. As column 2 shows, a large proportion of the errors, though disagreeing with the written by the Wikipedia editors nonetheless succeeded in neutralizing the source. So there might be multiple approaches to neutralize as well. Example of each error are given in table 9, 2 pages away. Okay, as the examples show our model, they've shown the different performance of the model. Okay, now the algorithmic analysis. So now they analyze the algorithm's ability to do the task which they were doing. So detecting subjectivity. So that is the prerequisite to neutralizing it. They evaluate the model's ability using crowd workers, and for each sentence we select a word with the highest probability and test whether the word was in fact changed by the editor. The proportion of correctly selected words in the system accuracy. So the concurrent lacks an interpretive window into its detection behavior. So we estimate an upper bound on the model's detection abilities by feeding the encoder's hidden states into a fully connected softmax that predicts the probability of a token being subjectively biased. So that is how they were trying, how they identified which word does the concurrent model think is the subjectivity bias inducing word. The low human performance can be attributed to the difficulty of identifying bias. Issues of bias are typically reserved for senior Wikipedia editors, and untrained workers perform far worse. Concurrent encoder, which is architecturally identical to BERT, has performance to a standalone BERT system. The linguistic and category related features in the modular detector gave it slight leverage over the plain BERT based models. So, this part discusses how when they use the concurrent encoder, which is the same as BERT as we discussed earlier. So it also gives performance similar to BERT, which is quite expected, I guess. The linguistic and category related features in the modular detector gave it slight leverage over the plain BERT based models. So when you added all of these things, then you got additionally better results. Oh, sorry, I just clicked on a reference, I guess. And now let's evaluate the join embedding algorithm. So when the ablation is essentially removing join embeddings and having a look at the results. So the join embedding combines two separately pre-trained models. So stripping off the uh, instead of the more traditional practices, stripping off any final classification layers and concatenated exposed hidden states. So they removed the joint embedding mechanism by training a new model where the pre-trained detector is frozen and its pre-output hidden states BI are concatenated to the encoder's hidden state. So that reduced the performance to 90.78 BLO and 37.57 accuracy. So that shows that joint embeddings are actually useful. Now join embedding control. We proceed to demonstrate how the join embedding creates controllability in the neutralization process. So modular relies on the probability distribution P to determine which word requires editing. So okay, let's just break this down. So they're now trying to showcase how join embedding creates controllability in the neutralization process. So if we recall when we use a modular mechanism, let's just go back and I'll show you. We had this uh, P thing um, where we were leveraging the probability distribution in some fashion. Was it the modular or the concurrent one? I'm not quite sure now. Right. So yeah, I guess they're talking about this maybe these ground labels, but we'll have to see. Let's just go back and try reading once again. Modular relies on the probability distribution P to determine which word requires editing. Yeah, so they produce a probability distribution for the words. Typically, this distribution comes from the detection module, which we discussed, but we can feed in user specified distributions that force the model to target particular words. This can let human advisors correct errors or push the model behavior. Okay, so what they're trying to say is we can, when we are using a modular architecture, we can enforce outside norms as well. So we can give the model something to work with or something to follow. We find the model is indeed capable of being controlled, letting users target specific words. However, doing so, we can introduce errors into the downstream language generation part. So it is not so easy. You'll have to be careful while doing this. So now they discuss the related works. Uh, this, the work of reducing subjectivity bias has been, or identifying subjectivity bias has been there for a long time. So all of these papers have discussed this. Debiasing has also been present in different works, and they've identified different directions. So maybe trying to make the representation fair across gender and age. So in this 2019 paper, it introduced a regularization term to penalize the projection of the word embedding onto that gender space. So that would reduce the gender bias. And then you have language generation, which is a part of text generation. So the modular detection module performs a similar localization in a soft manner as this work by Lee et al. But our steps are joined by a smooth conduit instead of discrete logic. So in that work, they were using some discrete logic, but here the authors are using joint embedding. This work is also related to a concurrent model. The closest is this, where a decoder was attached to board for question answering, where language machine translation systems are initialized to LSTM and transformer-based language models of the source text. So these are the different works which were related, and the conclusion was that since we need to have some way to automatically control bias so that people have more faith in the things they read, and this work is the first leap in that space. So the results are quite good, to be honest, for a first step into that domain. But the scope of the paper was limited to single word edits, which only constitute a quarter of the edits in our data. So they looked at the very basic instances, and they need to look at bigger instances as well. So in future works, multi-word, multilingual, and cross-sentence bias also should be there. If you remember, they removed sentences examples where more than one sentence was edited. Maybe they could keep that as well. Another important direction is integrating aspect of fact checking. So because model bias can also come due to when the message is not a fact but an opinion. So if we have some way to sort of find that, then maybe the model can perform better. Finally, a new joint embedding mechanism can be applied to other modular neural architectures as well. And they've thanked all of these people, Japan United States Educational Commission for the generous support, Chris Potts, Hirokazu Kiyomaru, Abigail C., Kevin Clark, and the Stanford NLP group, and our anonymous reviewers. We are gratefully acknowledge support from the DARPA program under ARO Prime contract and the NSF grant. DE Yang is thankful for support by grants from Google. And we missed something. Yeah. So these are the different examples. So existing Hotmail users were upgraded to Outlook.com on April 3, 2013. So there was no significant change. I guess there was no change. There are bad change. His exploitation of leased labors. So in this case, the word exploitation is actually good. Use is not so good. There was disfluency as well. So proofs may one thing that proves terrorism is still there. May is also not so good, and may prove is also not so fluent. And then we have the Battle of Basora, Battle of the Cam. Okay, so got it. So this was the source, this was the output which was expected, and this which they got, and this was the target. So this is the source, they got the output, but the target should have been changed, and so on. Okay, so in this case, I was wrong. The word use was what they were expecting. All right. The middle, yeah. So I should have read this before. The model treats words differently, and bottom the modular model can sometimes be controlled. All right. So I guess now you can have a look at this as well, and I think I did not do justice to this paper well, but over time I'll definitely try to improve the way in which I explain things. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hope to see you the next time, and like, share, and subscribe, or if you have the time and would like to see more such content.